In the winter of 2023, we decided to make a horror film.
The only problem was, we had no money, very little crew or actors, and we would have to have everything done within 6 months for a Halloween premiere and for film festivals.
And today, we're going to show you how we created Choose Your Fate.
It all started with an idea. We wanted to do something ambitious, maybe even a little beyond our scope. Something that authentically felt like an old horror classic, like The Gremlins and Poltergeist.
But since we had no money for locations, set design, actors, or pretty much anything else, we had to get innovative.
Well, we do have an N64 and a cartridge I wouldn't mind destroying.
And a basement we could film in and do whatever we wanted with set design and layout.
And that's when it hit us. Why not make a film about a haunted video game?
That should be easy enough, right?
So the idea was simple, but building an entire film around that, well, that's a different story.
So we thought the first thing to do was to create a storyboard. And while it took a while to put together, it was game-changing in terms of narrowing down what we needed to worry about.
Creating our film digitally first in Blender gave us a huge advantage when it came time to shoot.
But planning is one thing, doing is another, so it was time to get a team.
We already knew that I was going to direct and Sean was going to DP, but we knew that we couldn't do everything on our own, so we needed hands.
Where are hands? Hands, please!
But first we needed a cam op, and who better to call than our good friend Mike?
Mike has been our camera operator for the past few years, creating music videos and short films.
And he's an absolute unit with the gimbal.
With him, we'd be able to get those cinematic shots that we needed. We also had Matt on board to be our grip. He's been our go-to person for lighting, and we knew that we needed his help for all the location changes and setups that we were going to need.
Zooey mama.
Now for casting, fortunately, we only needed one actor. Well, there's a second, but we'll get to that. And we went with our friend Austin.
He's not an actor by trade, but he pulled together an amazing performance super last minute for our weird little side project, so big props to him for that.
And now that we had everyone we needed, it was time to do our last preparations to get us to our first shoot day.
Set design ate up a lot of time. We had to rearrange furniture, hang posters, dirty up the space with recyclables, and we also had to make sure we documented everything for continuity.
We wanted the environment to feel lived in, and along with that, we used set design as a way to make camera and lighting a lot easier later.
The N64 game was probably one of the easiest things to do. We took an old game, printed out the label that we designed, cut, fit, and glued it right across the label. And after a little paint and weathering, the prop looked 10 times better.
The final part was prepping all the gear and getting our last things checked off.
But the time had come. And while we had planned out everything to the smallest detail, just like every film, there was always going to be challenges along the way.
First thing we had to do was head out to the woods and film the footage that would become our game. The hard part was we had to go out into the middle of the woods at night in January. It was wet, cold, and hard to move around, but we had to be precise and make sure we didn't miss anything. A lot of the film would be centered around what we shot out there, so through the cold we had to stay focused and make sure we got everything we needed.
The next morning, we moved on to shooting the attic scenes. This is part of the shoot that we had done the least amount of prep work for, but still we were surprised at the amount of obstacles that we faced.
For one, the entrance of the closet was tight, like really tight. Considering that many of us had trouble fitting up there at all, it left very little space to set up lights, cameras, or even just plan how we were going to shoot it.
Once we were up there, things only got harder. The space had very little flooring to walk on, aside from some plywood, and there was many obstructions blocking us from framing up a good shot. The team pushed through, however, and we wrapped up the attic scene within a few hours. But we were definitely worried that we'd missed a few things.
We had to push on though, because now came the basement shoot. Luckily, this space was much more open and more shoot-friendly. But while the space was more convenient, we still needed to make sure we nailed it, as it would make up a large chunk of the film. It also had to sync up with the game footage we shot before.
To make it easier, we edited the game footage beforehand, finishing it up so we could actually use the TV footage on the day, and use it as a way to pace the scene. The final shot that we got of Austin was the monster charging at him. For this, we used a dolly and dropped the frame rate down to about 5 FPS on our camera. We moved the camera forward while using a leaf blower to send everything flying, and this gave us the effect that the monster was leaping at Austin at superhuman speed.
We had some other locations we had to shoot, like the hallway, the back patio, and the reverse of the basement den, but they mostly went well and there wasn't too much trouble, and by day 4 we were wrapped.
Or so we thought.
So everyone was wrapped, and we were about to tear down, and the footage was already transferred into the hard drive. We opened up Premiere and crossed our fingers and hoped for the best.
Now, Martin Scorsese said himself that if your rough cut doesn't scare you, then you're doing something wrong. But something felt off. Really off. I mean, the footage was great, but we were missing something.
And then it hit us. It felt hollow. We needed more TV shots. The attic POV shots were shaky, and worst of all, we never shot anything showing the monster. We originally intended not to show the monster, but doing that made it feel like we were cheating the audience.
But there was still hope.
We started off by grabbing the TV shots. We focused on using the space around the TV to help everything feel more tied together. We even shot our credits here by pre-making them in Premiere, putting them on the TV, and having Cora make the shadow of our monster attacking Austin.
We also took this time to grab more hallway shots on the dolly, as it was super helpful to draw out more suspense in our scenes.
And the final thing we needed for the basement was our monster. Due to the lack of time and money we had left, the only option was to scrap together a quick costume for Cora, having her stand in the hallway flicking the light switch on and off and charging at the camera, hoping for the best when it would come time to make her look like a monster in post.
And with that, we were able to call the shoot a wrap. Now, there's a million ways to edit a film, and not one answer is the right one.
One rule that you hear often is cut short, and then cut a little more. But in the case of horror, we argue that you should hold the suspenseful shots longer. Suspense is built by making your audience hold their breath, and waiting for the right moment to hit.
Now, while using this effect was great, there were still challenges in getting the story as a whole to work.
Editing can be difficult. This is the stage where you second guess yourself, and you feel like the film has gotten away from the whole point. But taking a step back and getting some fresh eyes might be exactly what you're missing. Sound proved to be another big hurdle. Since we didn't have an audio tech on set, we knew we were going to have to create every sound in post ourselves.
We started off with Foley. We recorded all of the footsteps, opening and closing the doors, Austin's body sounds, the knocks, all the gaming console sounds, just pretty much any little sound that would naturally be there.
We also had Austin come back to record his breaths, reactions, and screams.
Next, we added in the ambience. Ambience is made up of the natural sounds of the environment, such as the room tone, the crickets and winds for the outside, and the air conditioners.
After we completed that, we started on the monster sounds. We really wanted to nail this effect, as it would be the peak of our film, and we really wanted it to hit hard. For Austin being attacked, we tried everything from hitting raw meat and different weighted objects, and we even bought a rotisserie chicken.
And as soon as we finished, we moved right on to the soundtrack.
The soundtrack is what really brought the whole thing together. We had the idea to make the bass soundtrack the actual sound coming from the game in the film. We also wanted to implement a 16-bit soundtrack similar to old games from the 80s and 90s. Using Logic to design some MIDIs and retro synths, we were able to get something creepy together in no time.
Building around the game soundtrack, we also added risers, stings, and crashes for different moments of tension throughout the film. But sometimes the silence hit harder than anything.
We got through most of this process on our own, but we knew that sound was too important for the quality of our film. So we reached out for help from our sound engineer, Demitri, who mixed and mastered everything to sound balanced.
Due to the nature of this film and the struggles it had brought so far, unsurprisingly, there was a lot we had to fix in post.
For one, the TV shots all came up with a strange light patch on them, and overall looked flat, meaning we had to fully recreate the TV screen and the reflections, as well as tracking and animating them into the moving shots.
Along with this came a lot of other cleanup, like stabilization and removing light stands.
And that left the monster shot. Going into this, we had no idea what we were going to do to try to make something scary.
This is where we enlisted the help of a little Photoshop.
Since we were only going to show the monster standing still and had 3 more frames of her charging after, we knew we only had to create one and then replicate our effect a few more times.
Now that the visual effects are done, we can put our final polishes on.
We added graphics, color correction and grading, film grain, and all the other final touches that would bring everything together. So we started out with the goal of creating a horror film, but what did we learn? What was the takeaway, and what were we left with?
Well, they say you make your film 3 times. 1 time when you write it, 1 time when you shoot it, and 1 time when you edit it. But that feels a bit mathematical. And what does that even really mean?
Well, we think it means that when we first come up with an idea, we tend to see something vague and out of reach. When you take what you have, get the help of a few great people, and just make the thing already, it's then you discover the whole point.
You discover why you even wanted to make the thing in the first place. You discover what you love about making movies.
So when you decide to make your film, let it discover you.
and not the other way around.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below what you'd like to see next. We have a lot of new projects coming up very, very soon.
And if you click the link in the description below, you can go get some Choose Your Fate merch. It helps support us and helps us make more films, and it also looks pretty cool if I do say so myself.
See you next time, and thank you for watching!